What's up, guys? Welcome back to another TheSportUniverse podcast. It's me, Brian, and I'm joined with Nick.
What's going on, guys?
So we have a pretty large amount of topics to cover, so I think we should just get right into it. First up, we're going to go do some baseball stuff. Nick's Yankees have been doing pretty good, so I guess we'll start with that.
I'll take over for the Yankees. Yankees game one was pretty good. The Yankees won 7-0 against the Astros. Hitting was on point. Hit very well across the board, most of the players. Pitching was very good. Tanaka, I think he was 70 pitches at inning 7, something really good. Performed pretty well. But you got to say that even though the Yankees did very well, it's kind of promising. The Astros were at their weakest coming out of the last series. They barely survived the last round. A lot of their pitchers are on rest, so a lot of their players weren't mentally prepared coming into the Yankees series. And as I'll say that between the Yankees, I think either the Yankees or the Astros at this point are going to win the World Series. The only team that could beat the Astros are the Yankees. The only team that could beat the Yankees are the Astros. So whoever survives this series, I think, is going to win the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
So, game one is definitely not the be-all and end-all, considering the fact that they're actually playing right now while we're recording this podcast, and the Astros are up 1-0. So, doesn't mean the Yankees are out, but it definitely a change. I think it's in the fourth inning, and it's 1-0 Astros, yeah. So it's definitely a change of pace from the first game. So to say the series over would be absolutely ludicrous. But yeah, good win for the Yankees. It's good to see them win as a Yankees fan. Hopefully we can keep it up and come away with game 2 by the end of the night.
Yeah. One thing I want to say, we're kind of going to talk about this, but I guess we'll go right into it. The Nationals and the Dodgers, the fact that the Nationals beat the Dodgers, completely changes, my lack of confidence in the Yankees possibly winning 28th championship. I don't know if I said that right, but obviously I'm not rooting for the Yankees to win, but because the Nationals are possibly the team that's coming out of the NL and not the Dodgers, makes me less confident that the Yankees won't win. That makes sense, right?
It does make sense.
Okay. Their road to a World Series is much different now that it's not the Dodgers.
It's a lot easier.
Yeah. I guess we'll talk about Clayton Kershaw's little thing. So the Dodgers were well on their way. They were up 3-1, and they brought Clayton Kershaw in the 7th or 8th inning, and he gave up back-to-back home runs. That's so frustrating. Obviously, I didn't want the Nationals to win. I wanted the Dodgers to win. And the fact that they bring in their best pitcher and he completely blows it for them, and now it's the Nationals still in the playoffs and not the Dodgers, is very upsetting.
Now he's a meme.
Yeah, he was for playoff baseball, and now it's just even worse because it's just been proven over and over again. Trying to think if there's anything else from that series. It kind of reminded me of when the Mets beat the Dodgers in 2015 because the Dodgers weren't as good as they were this season, but they were definitely considered much better than the Mets, and they beat them out. So I can't be that frustrated because the Mets did the same thing. Going from there, I guess we'll go Cardinals and Braves. Not as big of a surprise with the Dodgers and Nationals series, obviously, but the Cardinals ended up beating out the Braves, and I kind of feel for the Braves fans because, once again, their team doesn't pull it out for them in the playoffs when they're supposed to be so good, and this was their year that they were going to make it to the World Series and do great things. Obviously, there's still a bright future for the Braves considering who's on their roster, but it's just... I don't know why I feel bad for them because I'm not a Braves fan, obviously, and I want the Braves to lose, but it's a sucky situation, I guess.
It should be the Mets.
Yeah, definitely. And then, anything else about that? No, I don't think so. From there, obviously the Nationals and the Cardinals are playing in the NLCS. Yeah, championship. And the Nationals won game 1. Very frustrating because I don't want the Nationals to do anything. I don't hate them as much as since they don't have Bryce Harper anymore. But the whole situation with Bryce Harper is kind of funny. He leaves the Nationals and they make it farther than they've ever made it in the playoffs with Bryce Harper, which is kind of ironic, but baseball's funny that way. And I think the Nationals are up 2-0 over the Cardinals. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, there were 2 games and they won both. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Speaking on that, I'll just stop you real quick. I feel like this is more general about all sports. When superstars leave a team, it kind of creates more of a team culture within the team that everyone has to step up. It's not like we're playing behind a player. We're all equals now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny because my roommate back at college, he always makes fun of me when we talk about baseball. He's like, you don't know enough about baseball, or you keep talking about the culture. I feel like culture is such a big thing.
Yeah.
Like when I played high school sports, I always focused on it. And I kind of want this set of culture for the future for our high school. Was like, shut up, don't talk, whatever, don't talk on the field, don't talk off the field. Put in hard work and work as a team, and that'll get you wins. And working as a team sometimes can be an issue when you have a superstar like Bryce Harper. So,
Sure.
Not saying it's technically his fault. It might just be the other people's mentality that they kind of feel inferior to him, or they're playing behind him. So when he leaves, it kind of creates a change in morale in the team, which I feel like in baseball goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of examples of that. I mean, when in basketball, LeBron James is, I don't know, but there's definitely in the past been a big player's gotten injured and then they play better without him, stuff like that. So it's definitely a situation like that. It's just surprising that.
Well, I think I'm thinking of the Warriors, right? Didn't they do better without KD on the floor?
Oh, right, yeah, definitely. That's always a interesting situation. I guess the last thing to cover is the Mets manager search. Right now, it seems like, interestingly enough, it's Carlos Beltran who's in the lead to get the job. There's been a lot of stuff that I think it came out today that he had job interviews with the Cubs and there's another team, and he declined them. Nick's celebrating about something.
Yeah, Aaron Judge did a 2-run home run. The Yankees take the lead, top of the 4th.
So annoying. I knew what I was going to say, and now I don't. Okay. What was it? Okay. Carlos Beltran had 2 interviews lined up, and he declined both of them because he just wants the Mets job, which...
I didn't hear about that. Carlos Beltran is lining up for a managerial spot.
Yeah, he wants to be the Mets manager, and I mean...
I like Carlos Beltran. If you didn't get if you don't get Girardi...
Yeah, I'd rather have Girardi than Beltran.
I mean, obviously, I think anybody would, but I think Beltran's a good guy. He's solid.
Yeah, it's just... I don't want...
You want somebody with experience.
Yeah. And I mean, the one thing about Carlos Beltran, compared to Mickey Callaway, one of the things that I had against Mickey Callaway was that he didn't know how to, do New York and all that stuff, but Carlos Beltran definitely has experience with that.
Yeah.
I guess if they got Carlos Beltran, I'd be fine with it. I'd just rather have Joe Girardi. From there, I guess we'll go into some football. What do you want to talk? Seattle, Cleveland. Should we start from the beginning of the week with the Giants?
Yeah, I guess we'll start at the beginning. My Giants fell 14-35 against the Patriots. I think at half the Giants were down 14-17. It was a closer score at the half. I can't remember the exact score. The Giants kind of held their own. Even though the Giants lost pretty badly to the Patriots, it looked good. Daniel Jones, I would say, has definitely fallen off since his first game against the Buccaneers, but it was kind of expected, going from a team like the Buccaneers to the Patriots. You could definitely expect some fall off, which I think the Buccaneers lost by a ton today, right? We don't have them listed here. I think Jameis Winston threw 5 or 6 interceptions today.
Wow.
So I know they lost by a ton. Yeah. Actually, it wasn't so bad. They lost 37-26 against the Panthers. But I'll stick to the Giants. So yeah, the Patriots look better than ever. They're the clear Super Bowl favorites. They're the only real undefeated team left, even though 49ers technically are, but they tied. But
yeah.
So Tom Brady has not looked good in terms of the Patriots side. This is definitely his worst season yet.
Really?
He doesn't really. He's making less good throws in terms of decision making. But it's still a decent decision. It's still Tom Brady's decision making.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's on the lower end of that, is still higher than anybody else.
Yeah.
But physically, it doesn't seem like he's losing the ability to really throw balls deep and throw balls with some power on them. To be expected when you're getting into your mid-40s. So I think Tom Brady's starting to decline. I'm not saying he's anywhere near done. Cause I remember, what was it? Who said that? I think it was Max Kellerman said that Tom Brady was going to fall off a cliff. Yet the Patriots are 6-0 right now. He said that. I think he said that last year. That Tom Brady's going to fall off a cliff. So I think it's ludicrous to say Tom Brady's done, but he's not looking as good as he used to be. And you're starting to see some decline, but that some decline is not really affecting them too bad. And I think the Giants are going to get back Saquon Barkley next week. So kind of a blowout for Patriots, kind of what expected. But I think both teams can really bring some positives out of there.
What's the Giants' record?
I think they're 2-3 now.
Okay.
That's not horrible. That's better than most people would have thought.
Yeah. I guess I'll talk about the Jets, and then we'll just do the rest. So the Jets won today. Sam Darnold came back. I think that isn't a coincidence that when Sam Darnold comes back, they do good. Their offense actually moved the ball. The first throw was a first down. Very exciting. I mean, just that is a positive. And then they got out to a 21-6 halftime lead, which I'm sure not many people expected against the Cowboys, considering it was the Jets who were 0-4, and they were putting a beat down on the Cowboys. Obviously, the final score was 24-22, so the Cowboys definitely did come back in the second half, and I thought it was going to be what happened in Week 1, where the Jets had the lead, and it ended up being that they lost because they couldn't hold on to the lead they had. And it was kind of similar. I mean, they stopped really scoring, which is something they have to get better at if they want to be a good team. The one disappointing thing is that they played so well today that it's just kind of like what could have been if Sam Darnold didn't get injured. And I know we talked about last week that the Jets aren't really a good team. But, I mean, they did show today that they definitely have what it takes to be better than average, maybe. I don't know. Average. So that was disheartening, but it's exciting to finally have a win on the board, and Sam Darnold definitely was exciting to watch.
I agree with you. The Jets look really great today. As a Jets fan, something to be excited about.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold looked pretty good today. It's good to have him back. In terms of Luke Falk, I don't know if you heard, but they waived him.
Yeah.
He's the first player to start and then get waived the next week since, I think they said when they were broadcasting, 2001, 2003. So it's very rare that a player gets to start one week and then gets waived the next week.
Yeah, I mean.
Le'Veon Bell looks like he had some room to work with this week. The Jets season's kind of lost at this point now that they're 1-4. I don't know what you could have two mindsets going forward as a Jets fan: either tank, forget winning, or see the wins you can get and try to start building some culture.
Yeah.
I would just play. I wouldn't even keep a mindset. Let the Jets play a couple games, see how it goes. If they start to win, I'd say build the culture.
Mm-hmm.
If not, tank.
They have to go 12-2 to be 10-6. Wait, what did I just say? Yeah, wait. No. 10-2. 10-2.
Yeah.
That was bad math.
In terms of, I just wanted the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I love seeing as a Giants fan. I don't mind every other NFC team except the NFC East team besides the Cowboys. Don't like the Cowboys. Not a fan.
Mm.
It's kind of interesting how the Cowboys have the number one offense in the league, and the first team that really stumped them was the New York Jets. Who would have thought, right?
Yeah.
The Cowboys offense did not look great today. A lot of penalties. Looked a little bit dysfunctional. Couldn't really run the ball like they wanted to for a majority of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And the defense was kind of lacking too. I mean, they're letting the Jets, who are 0-4, had the worst offense in the NFL. They had, I think they scored their first actual receiving or their second receiving touchdown. They scored their first touchdown in the first half all season.
Yeah.
and they walked all over the Cowboys in the first half. So that's just
it's a testament to Sam Darnold.
It's embarrassing on the Cowboys' part. If you're a Cowboys fan, you're not winning the NFC East. It's going to the Eagles or the Giants. I'm heavily lean on the Eagles. Yeah, not a good sign. And the Cowboys, I think, have lost a few in a row now. They're in kind of a downturn. So if you're the Cowboys, you're gonna have to do something. You're gonna have to adjust.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Cowboys, their week 1 was so good that people started to overhype them, and I was kind of confused why they were doing. I mean, it was just week 1, and from there they haven't really shown much.
I guess we'll go to Buccaneers, Panthers real quick.
Okay.
I think Jameis Winston threw 5 or 6 interceptions. Buccaneers at this rate, the way they're going, they seem to be the most inconsistent team in the NFL. I think the Giants are 2-4, by the way. My bad.
Okay.
Got my correction real quick. So Buccaneers just seem to be such an inconsistent team. 1 week they absolutely destroy a great team. The next week they take a run-in-the-mill team like the Panthers and they get destroyed by them. I want to say the Panthers aren't a bad team, but they're definitely not top of the NFL. I think I would say they're top 10 in the NFL, where they're not like top 5. So yeah, and they get killed by the Panthers. In terms of the Panthers side, Kyle Allen is now 4-0 as the Panthers starter. Christian McCaffrey has kind of lifted himself up to be the best running back in the NFL. He's just he's an amazing season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is.
So yeah, if you're a Panthers fan, something to be excited about. Good chance to make the playoffs. If you're a Buccaneers fan, hell on high water. I don't know how to feel.
I feel like the Buccaneers
depends on the week.
What
are you looking up?
Well, I was looking up what Cam Newton's injury is.
Yeah, he's been out for quite some time now. Again, at least 4 weeks.
Do you know what it is?
I don't know. It kind of raises a question for Panthers fans too.
Yeah, like where do you go?
This is something for Panthers fans to leave in the questions, comments, concerns area. If this kind of happens a lot in football. I guess it happened with the Yankees early in baseball. If your team's doing well, are you going to take the starter that was injured and put him back in?
Yeah.
It leaves a lot of questions to be answered. The Yankees put their starters back in, and they performed pretty well. So, I don't know that you can really compare baseball to football, but, dilemma for good problem to have for the Panthers, though, at the end of the day.
True. Yeah. When was Kyle Allen drafted this year?
I have no clue.
Okay.
That reminds me, why is Kyle Allen playing? They drafted Will Greer this year, didn't they?
Who?
Will Greer, he played for the West Virginia.
Oh.
He's Nash Greer's brother, the Vine superstar.
Thanks, that clears it up.
Yeah.
I want to see when Kyle Allen
So
started.
they drafted Will Greer this year, and they haven't touched him. He hasn't started yet, which I was a little surprised because I figured if Cam Newton went down, Will Greer can kind of run it like kind of run the offense like Cam Newton, but I guess they just had more confidence in Kyle Allen, and it has not let them down. Yeah. The fact that he's 4-0.
Yeah. Where do you want to go next?
I'll get down the line now.
Okay. So Seattle beat Cleveland 32-28. The Browns continue to collapse isn't the right word, but just not play well.
Perform up to standards.
I mean, 32-22 is not bad, and it was the Seahawks, but I think Baker Mayfield had 3 interceptions. I want to see what Odell's stats were.
Sure. While you're looking that up, Baker Mayfield went out today. He got taken in the locker room. He got roughed up. He came back. Odell has not performed well. How did he do?
He had 101 yards.
Oh, that's pretty well.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe
I didn't really hear about it, so I'm expecting the duel, but yeah. You can finish if you like to talk.
I mean, the Seahawks are doing really well this season. Russell Wilson continues to show why he's one of the top quarterbacks in the league. Maybe the top quarterback in the league right now. Well, Patrick Mahomes. But definitely the Seahawks are a team to watch in the NFC along with the Chiefs.
I totally agree with you. Seahawks, I think it's a testament to Pete Carroll and his ability to teach defensive principles. I forget somebody said that already, but I totally agree with it. The fact that the Seahawks defense got depleted, they drafted pretty well under Pete Carroll's direction in terms of defense.
Mm-hmm.
They put together another defense, and under Pete Carroll, again, he's great at teaching defensive concepts. One of the best defenses, again, in the league this year. And then on the offensive side, as you said, Russell Wilson is just a special player. He's kind of hard to – he doesn't seem to put up, like, the stats that the other quarterbacks do in terms of, like, Pat Mahomes, but he always seems to get the win. At the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Definitely.
Seahawks are just been one of those teams that they're kind of in a rebuilding state, yet at the same time they still win.
And they're 5-1.
So it's a pretty interesting team to watch. In terms of Cleveland, I think Cleveland's suffering from two problems right now. There's a third problem, but I'll get to that. It's kind of a lesser problem. The first and foremost problem I probably see is the coaching. I don't think they have a good coach in Kitchen. What is his name? Freddie Kitchens?
Don't know. I'll look it up.
I've seen their play calling. It's not great. It seems to lack creativity. It doesn't seem like it's getting the job done. Another issue they seem to be having, I think, was
Freddie
their
Kitchens.
offseason. Freddie Kitchens?
Yeah.
Second problem that they had was all started in their offseason. Colin Cowherd said this on his show. How he has a point. Baker Mayfield and Odell and Jarvis Landry, they didn't really practice over the summer in the offseason at all when it wasn't mandatory. Even it was, Odell skipped the mandatory practices.
Yeah.
You know, he pointed out, like, Edelman and Brady, even though they've been playing together for how many years now, they still practice timing, out routes, slant routes, the timing in the offseason, even when they don't have to. And that wins championships. When you get a new wide receiver, because, look, I've played football for how many years now, and I play a little bit of quarterback. On some of these routes, timing is everything. And if you don't practice timing, then you're going to throw incompletions. You're going to throw interceptions. If you're throwing a post route and you're trying to, against like a cover 3, and you're trying to, so a cover 3, you have 3 deep safeties. And if you could throw to a post route in a cover 3, when he breaks on that post route, if you hit him as he breaks, you'll be able to slip it in between the two deep safeties. If you throw it too late, you're going to nail the safety right in the chest, and that's an interception, the middle safety. So, timing routes like that, out routes, stuff like that, if you throw it too late, it'll be interception because a quarterback will be able to come up on a little simpler terms. So, again, timing's everything. They didn't practice over the summer. Talent's definitely not their problem. I think that the Cleveland Browns have the most talented roster in the NFL as a whole. They have talent at every single position, and they're not winning. So, I think those two are their major problems. And I think the third problem is kind of the media is getting to their heads. Baker Mayfield and Odell constantly show up in the media saying, this and that, and stuff that really doesn't matter. I think they're thinking about too much about that and not about, building a game plan. And we can't really see what they do behind closed doors, but to me, this is what seems like to be their problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's all, like you said, it's their personalities combining isn't the greatest combination for them to have, and it's definitely on display. And I feel like that goes back to them not practicing together. They'd rather build their own personal brand rather than the team. I mean, I just like Baker Mayfield in a lot of commercials that I've seen recently. I feel like that might be too much of a focus for him, and I'm sure Odell does the same thing. Next up, 49ers, Rams. The 49ers stay undefeated. That's all I really have to say about that. I didn't really watch it, so I don't know if you have anything.
Yeah, 49ers showed pretty dominance. They showed dominance against the Rams. 49ers have kind of slipped in as people aren't really sure. They technically are an undefeated team, but they tied. So
yeah.
I don't know if I'm sold on the 49ers yet, but again, Colin Cowherd either says ridiculous things or he says brilliant things, and I like to pick apart the brilliant things. NFL is a result-oriented league, and you can't argue when a team's 4-0 or they're 5-0-1 or they're 4-0-1. And you can't argue with the results. The 49ers are doing well. They're good defensively, good offensively. They're the best tight end in the NFL, in my opinion, next to maybe like Travis Kelce. Well, I haven't really heard much about George Kittle this season, but I don't know how he's doing.
Wait, are you? It looks like they're straight 5-0.
No, they've definitely tied.
They beat the Buccaneers 31-17, beat the Bengals 41-17, beat the Steelers 24-20, beat the Browns 31-3, and beat the Rams 27. According to ESPN.
They've definitely tied.
Okay, whatever. We'll go with it.
All right. Yeah, so I feel like George Kittle's been a little bit quiet this season, but regardless, you can't argue with the results. Jimmy Garoppolo and the rest of the team, they're carrying. The Rams have kind of been disappointing this season. Aaron Donald has been extremely quiet, who, has been my favorite player in the NFL for quite some time, for about 2-3 years now. As a former defensive tackle, I'd like to see the big men get the inner big men get some sacks. So He was a really fun player to watch. He was the best player in the NFL, voted by the NFL players. He's been pretty quiet, doesn't lead the league in sacks. I believe that's held by somebody on the Buccaneers. I can't think of his name right off the bat, but yeah. So the Rams defense has been quiet. Offensively, I'd want to draft Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley's been absolutely quiet. I think the knee issues, people have been, on the fence about them, and it's been kind of a controversy. He should be focusing on his knee issues. I think they're really affecting him. He has such a limited number of snaps, and when he gets in there, he just doesn't look like, a lot of times as a running back, you need to get into a rhythm. And if he's not getting the snaps that he needs to get into a rhythm, he's just not going to perform, on top of the fact that he has knee issues. So the Rams have definitely been stifled this season. Not a good look for the Rams.
Okay. Next, Houston kind of pulled out a little bit of a shocker, beating the Chiefs today. Patrick Mahomes, he did okay, not his usual self. He had 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 19 for 35, which was probably one of the bigger problems for him. And then Deshaun Watson was probably worse than him, but they ended up pulling out the win 31-24.
Is that all?
That's all I have to say.
All right. I guess I'll take over. I'm personally a pretty big Chiefs fan. I like to see the Mahomes do well. I'm also I like the Texans too. There's probably like my 2 favorite teams outside of the Giants. I'm not really big into team rivalries and stuff. I just love football. So.
I wish I could say the
same. Yeah. Patrick Mahomes he's been kind of struggling as of lately. Tyreek Hill returned lately. Today, not lately. Tyreek Hill returned today.
Oh, yeah.
I think he had 2 touchdowns. He performed extremely well.
80 yards.
I think Kansas City's just struggling from the fact that they don't have a defense.
Yeah.
Their defense has been pretty bad. They have It's funny because they hired C. Spagnuolo, who was the defensive coordinator of the Giants.
Yeah.
And his defense with the Chiefs struggles with the same thing as it did with the Giants.
Yeah.
Decent in coverage, but cannot get a pass rush. And when he does send pass rushes, he sends heavy blitzes, and they get beat. They get beat when they send the blitzes. The fact, the Chiefs. I watched this game today. When you can't get Patrick Mahomes on the field, then how is your offense going to perform? If he can't get on the field, if they're constantly, especially because the time of possession today, I think Houston had 37 minutes in terms of times of possession versus the Chiefs 20 minutes of time of possession. And I think it's really a common theme along the Chiefs this year is that the offense can't get the hold of the ball because we all see what the Chiefs offense can do. It's incredible. But if they're not getting the ball, then they're not doing anything with it. On the Texans side, it's definitely been a pretty good season for them. J.J. Watt's been doing pretty well. Even regardless of the fact that they lost Jadeveon Clowney, the Texans defense has been doing pretty well. On the offensive side, Will Fuller has been absolutely tearing it up. Unfortunately for me, because I selected DeAndre Hopkins in my first pick, and he hasn't done much this year. Deshaun Watson has played very well today. In terms of the game itself, I feel like the Texans won that game because they wanted it more than the Chiefs. It wasn't really game planning. The final touchdown, the Texans ran a lot of RPOs today, and it was an RPO. The run got clogged, so oh my God, why am I blanking out? The quarterback for the Texans. I just said his name before, Watson. Watson pulled the ball for the pass on the RPO. had nobody open, so he decided to run it himself. He went one-on-one with the defender, juked him out, and dove into the end zone. So, it was kind of a gritty win, but it was definitely a heart-filled win. Good news for the Texans fans, and the Chiefs got to figure it out. Hopefully, they can do better in the future.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
They're our only hope of beating the Patriots at this rate.
Yeah. All right. Next up, I just included this with the Redskins and the Dolphins because it was the battle of the undefeated, and the Redskins pulled
the battle of the defeated.
Oh yeah, right. Jesus Christ. Yeah. So the Redskins beat the Dolphins 17-16.
Basically proves that both teams are horrible.
Yeah. Adrian Peterson did have a good game. He had 118 yards. I don't really know how he's been doing this season, but
they haven't really been running him since it's like the first week. They kind of want to hand it over to Darius Geis and I think they have Chris Thompson back there. So they've been kind of giving them all the carries. Adrian Peterson has not got that many carries this season, but when he does carry the ball, he usually does well. I guess they know that Adrian Peterson only has a year or two left in him, so they're not trying to really make him a mantle to their offense, especially with the fact that it's struggling. They want to build on the younger players.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which I get, but I don't know. In that case, just let him go. Release him. Trade him.
Yeah, they could probably. That's definitely true.
When he's touching the ball and he's getting a running back gets 100 yards in a game and the MLB.
NFL.
Oh my God, I'm watching the Yankee game. That's why I said that. Oh God. In the NFL, then I feel like they definitely have a spot on the roster to at least get playing time, get some reps.
Definitely true. I guess that's it for football.
And a shout out to any NFL representatives watching this. Somebody signed C.J. Anderson. This man has nothing but performed, and nobody wants him. And I don't understand why. I think it's because he's a little overweight, but he's kind of a bruising back anyway, so it doesn't really. It shouldn't like when he gets in the game, he puts up results, and I don't understand why people won't sign him. But
yeah, to all the NFL
I digress.
Out there. I guess we'll get into basketball. I guess I'll talk about the Knicks. So the Knicks are 1-1 preseason. They had a pretty bad loss. Who was it against? The Wizards. Oh, they beat the Wizards and they lost the Wizards. Obviously not a lot to take away from the preseason considering it's the preseason. But some things that I've seen, RJ Barrett has definitely shown a lot of good signs. He had 17 points in his first game, 15 points in his second game, and was good on defense. I didn't think I would like Elfrid Payton, but from what I've watched, he's like very intense on defense, which I didn't know about him, and he looks normal now with his haircut, which always bothered me. And I also like Taj Gibson. He seems to be someone who builds a culture for a team like we talked about, and is gonna
Marcus Morris
too, and kind of get them to be more defensive minded, which was something they struggled with last year. I think the biggest problem for them is going to be scoring and who to give the ball to, not because they have too much talent, because they don't have that much talent on the offensive side of the ball. So that's probably going to be a problem for them, but I wouldn't be I'd be a little surprised, but if they were able to squeak out the 8th seed, they have enough there that I think they could I think they could. But obviously it's a preseason and I don't want to go too far into it. Second thing, Zion Williamson, I did a video on him for his first game. He's been playing really well. I mean, one of the things that has become apparent for me, which I thought might be a concern, is that he continues to just like bully people down low and always be able to get to the basket. And I thought him playing the NBA where everyone's much bigger, he'd have a little trouble with that, but it doesn't seem like he's having any trouble with that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I felt like, again, his game in college was snagging rebounds and bullying people inside. I didn't think he was going to be able to in the NBA because he's not as big as everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I was wrong. He's definitely I thought Zion Williamson in the NBA was going to be all right. I never thought he was going to be bad. I just didn't think he was going to live up to his number one pick hype, and LeBron comparisons. But at the rate we're going, if he keeps it up, he's going to average 30 points in 30 minutes. Then he's going to be quite the problem for the NBA for quite some time. He's shooting ridiculously well inside the paint. Shooting upwards of 85 to 90%. And even behind the arc, I know he's shooting pretty well too. Like he's taking advantage of most of the 3-pointers that the teams were giving him. So he's looking extremely good for his preseason games.
Yeah, that team should be interesting with Lonzo and him. Probably a good combination. Next, talk about the China controversy a little bit. I think Nick knows more about it, so I'll just let you talk about it.
So I actually explained this to Brian right before we hopped on.
Because I didn't know
hopped on the podcast. So I'll start from the beginning of what a lot of people don't understand what the Hong Kong. And it's all political based. It's not sports, but it's gone over to the sports realm with the sports. So I'll start from the beginning. China is a communist country, meaning that they have a dictator. They're kind of one government rather than a democracy like America has, where we vote on who's our elected officials and whatnot. Where China has dictators that pass it down to generation, and they're the people who were elected to Congress is very like intergovernment. It doesn't really, the citizens aren't really involved with it. And all this is true except in Hong Kong, it's a certain part of China, where the British have been in control for quite some time now. I believe it's back under Chinese control at this point, but for a while now it was British ruled, and because of that, they've had democracy there they've actually installed some versions of democracy where they have free press. They're allowed to have free markets. So, throughout the rest of the China, markets are controlled strictly by the government, and the government has a large part of say about what markets do. And in terms of markets, I mean like businesses, can they purchase these goods from these people? Where in Hong Kong, businesses have freedoms to do that. Although this is true, the people of Hong Kong feel as if they really don't have democracy because they are still connected to China. Although they have freedom of speech, China still says you can't talk bad about the leader, and they're very picky about what you can and can't say. So the people of China in Hong Kong want complete democracy, similar to what America has. That's what they're kind of looking for. And derailing from the political talk, going back in sports now. The Houston Rockets general manager, Daryl Money, tweeted out in favor of these protests about a week ago or so. In doing so, the NBA, I think, challenged him on it. And after speaking about it, the NBA decided not to suspend him, saying that he does have the freedom of speech. However, since that statement, they've kind of changed their views on it. Because when they said that Daryl Money has the right to post that, China started pulling games that they were going to play in the NBA, and they started pulling advertisements from the NBA in China. So as such, the NBA didn't want to lose all that money and decided to side with China in indirectly supporting communism, which is a problem with some people. They basically disallowed any of the NBA players to talk about it. Which I think is interesting because I don't feel like NBA players want to talk about the China situation to begin with. I remember a CNN reporter asked James Harden and Russell Westbrook as they were sitting there how they felt about the situation. And although somebody else who's affiliated with the NBA said they weren't allowed to answer those questions, you could easily see in their eyes that they didn't want to answer them regardless. Like they just want to play basketball. They don't care about the politics. Which is why we all get into sports anyway, because we don't want to deal with the politics. We want to deal with the sports.
Yeah.
Rivalry in sports and going against each other in sports is kind of a nice thing to have because at the end of the day, you both love that sport where politics can get real rough at sometimes. But I think I foresee like two larger problems is that coaches like Steve Kerr and Greg Popovich, they often talk about Trump in a negative light. They obviously do not like Trump. I'm not going to try and sway anybody on this podcast of politics, but I think it's pretty evident they don't like Trump, and they're pretty open about how much they dislike him. But when they're asked about the China incidents and the Hong Kong protests, they seem to not want to answer questions about them. I think Steve Kerr said he doesn't have enough information, and that it seems like two there's too many sides to it, and he doesn't really know enough about it. He doesn't want to speak on it, which is kind of a huge contrast to how he speaks about, the U.S. president. I can't tell if that's because of the NBA told him to say that or that's his own personal belief, but it was just kind of interesting. And secondarily to that, at NBA games, they're not allowing people to have any protests of some sorts within the games. Like, people in the stands are not allowed to hold any politic-driven signs to say like anything about Hong Kong. So again, the NBA is sort of siding with China in terms of like, being anti-protests in order to retain their advertisements and the games that are held there and the fans that they have there. So I think it's a pretty interesting situation. Now I've given you guys all the facts. My personal belief is that, the NBA should really choose morals over money in this point.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of communism. I think that, but irregardless of what I think, I feel like the NBA players and all the NBA should be allowed to say what they say. And if that loses them with China dealings, then so be it.
Yeah.
Have the morality to let the players say what they want to say if they want to say it.
That's like one of the things that really bothers me when like it seems like business is more important than like basic human rights and being moral about things. That's when it's like kind of like, okay, like the NBA has enough money. If they don't have China, it's fine. Yeah, that's I didn't really know about that, so that's kind of bothers me a little bit. I guess we'll go Harden's new shoe.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit. Talking about the Rockets in a negative light. Also, the Rockets have not been doing well in the preseason, which kind of sucks. But they said they're going to start to stagger Russell Westbrook's and James Harden's minutes, so hopefully that'll be good for when the regular season rolls around. On a positive news, James Harden's new shoe release, Volume 4. I think LeBron's shoes dropping right around the corner. I think it's 17s. They look pretty interesting. I'm kind of a shoe guy. I do enjoy my sneakers. I think I'm going to pick up a pair of these Hardens. I think he dropped his barbershops today. They're like black. They're all basketball shoes. They're like black, and they have red, white, and blue like a barbershop pole. If anybody wants to look them up, they're the James Harden Volume 4s, barbershop edition. Or just look up barbershop. So those are the shoes I think they dropped today. So, they're a pretty interesting shoe. I think I might pick up a pair. I've heard that they're actually good for playing basketball in, and I kind of do need some basketball-based shoes. I'm trying to get the pink ones that he's going to release. They look pretty cool.
Pink and blue ones?
No, I just like the pure pink ones. I forget what they're called.
Oh, I see them.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm a fan of pink. I'm a fan of wearing pink, so... So, yeah, nice. I'm going to pick me a pair of those. So, yeah, his shoe drops. I don't know, something to add to the podcast. See if you guys like it or
not. Next up is some college football talk. I don't know what just happened to my computer. Okay, we're back. Yeah. You can just go into it.
All right, yeah, college football is kind of my thing.
Yeah.
College football has probably been the best week of college football to date up until this point. I guess nobody cares about Villanova, so I'll start out with them. Villanova lost their first game. Going into the game, they were playing James Madison University. Villanova was ranked 5. JMU was ranked 2. So it was a pretty heavily anticipated contest. JMU wound up pulling out 38-24. Villanova did not play well. Our starting running back, Justin Covington, he's injured, so he didn't play in the game. So it kind of disappointing as a Villanova fan. I mean, we're not out of it yet because the playoffs for the FCS are a little bit wider. They're more like the basketball playoffs. They involve a lot more teams rather than just 4, which we'll get into later. So it's not over for Villanova yet, but a little disappointing to see them lose. Moving on, I think the biggest game of the week for me was LSU. LSU wound up beating Florida, 7 seed, by the score of 42-28. I think Florida's now a 9 seed now, or were they a 9 seed? I don't know. Penn State's a 7 seed. My bad. Florida's a 9 seed. And that wound up moving up LSU to the number 2 seed in AP polling, which is kind of interesting. I don't really see them as the 2 seed, but AP polling is kind of weird in that way. Joe Burrow continues to put on Heisman rate performances. LSU's quarterback. So good news for you LSU fans. Florida, you're doing all right, but does not look like you're going to make the playoffs this year. I'm just going to skip over that. I have a story I'm going to say at the end about football. It's more story driven. Secondarily, Oklahoma anticipated matchup against the Texas Longhorns this weekend. Oklahoma wound up winning 34-27. They're kind of stuck in the 6th seed right now, which is kind of dragging for Oklahoma. They can't seem to get themselves back into the top 4 seeds in the AP polling, so that's happening there. Bama beat Texas A&M, and they skip up to the number 1 seed. They won 47-28. Clemson beat FSU to 45-15, and they fell to the 3 seed after winning, and they're still 6-0. I find it kind of interesting. That's one of my major problems with AP polls, which again we'll get into later, is that they're winning and they fell to the 3 seed, so it's kind of interesting. Yeah. Biggest upset of the week: South Carolina wound up upsetting Georgia, and Georgia falls to the 10 seed, which they were, I believe, at the 3 seed before this. So a big drop off from Georgia, big upset, pretty interesting. Ohio, which I don't think they played this week, they slipped into the 4 seed. Behind their quarterback Justin Fields, who is also putting up a Heisman caliber season. Then did off Nevada football. They wound up switching quarterbacks this week, and they wound up switching to Malik Henry. If you guys don't know him, he was a part of season 3 as well as season 4 of Last Chance U on Netflix, one of my favorite football series. If you guys haven't watched it, go watch it. Great series. He finally got his start. He's been dangling around the depths of football, and he finally got his chance to start. He originally went to FSU, went to Kansas. He went to Kansas Community College, and for JUCO, and then he came back to Nevada. He was supposed to start the season at some point. He's been playing at the 3rd seed for the quarterback, and they finally gave him a start this week. They wound up winning, I believe, 40-something to 38, like 41-38 against San Jose State, which isn't a great team, but a win's a win. Good luck for Malik Henry. Hopefully he keeps doing well. I think he's a pretty talented quarterback. I feel like he has NFL talent, so if he can just get in the right situation, he should be able to perform. And so, good news for him. That about wraps up college football for the week.
Good run through there. That was very nice. I guess I don't really know about this, but the XFL draft is coming up. So for anyone who's interested in that,
I just want to talk a little about the XFL. I think it's kind of interesting. Other leagues really have not worked. I believe they started there was the American League or whatever that had the opposite league against the NFL, and that kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
So we'll see how the XFL does. I feel like XFL's marketing has been a lot better up until this point. I've seen a lot more about it. I've heard a lot more about it, and I kind of know the players that are going into it, which is kind of interesting. Some notable players that are going to be in it, off the top of my head. We're going to have Trent Richardson, running back, Connor Cook, quarterback. I believe Chad Ochocinco is going to be within the draft as well, which is kind of interesting. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I don't know why. Ronald Ali from Last Chance U is going to be in it. They're going to have a lot of Last Chance U players. There's a lot of interesting names that are in there. Could be an exciting league to watch going forward. I believe there's 8 teams, and the draft is going to be a 5-round draft, or it's going to have 5 different parts. And each team has to draft, I believe, in the first 3 rounds, you have to draft between quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. Then you have to draft, and then in the next couple rounds, you have to draft offensive linemen. Then I think it's defensive linemen. I think it's safeties, corners, and then it's whoever's left.
That's interesting.
So it's kind of an interesting. It's going to be a snake draft, but you have to draft within certain orders. So it's going to add a little twist to the draft, which should make it interesting. I don't know if I'm going to watch it, but I'll see the results and see who's on what team, and we'll see how it goes from there.
What's the New York?
Yeah, if you're looking for a side of the NFL, this could be an interesting thing to watch going forward.
What's the name of New York's team?
New York's team? I don't even know if there is a New York team.
There is a New York team, but I don't know what it is. It doesn't really matter.
I don't even know the names of the teams. I just know there's 8 teams. So the 8 teams in the XFL are the Seattle Dragons, the St. Louis Battlehawks, Houston Roughnecks, the Dallas Renegades, Tampa Bay Vipers, New York Guardians, DC Defenders, and the Los Angeles Wildcats.
Interesting. All right. Maybe it'll be similar. I mean, it seems like with the big 3 for basketball, it's a place to get your.
That's what I can say. That the Big 3 has been a very successful alternate league to the NBA, and it actually got Joe Johnson, ISO Joe. He's back in the NBA now after winning MVP in the Big 3. Yeah. So I feel like football's a little different because it is a little more expensive to put on with all the equipment and the coaching and all the personnel involved. But again, if the Big 3 can be successful, I feel like the XFL can too. I feel like at the end of the day, all it comes down to is marketing. Are they getting enough people to watch at the end of the day? Which I don't feel like a lot of people were watching the other league for the NFL. So that about sums up the XFL.
All right. So last but not least is our controversial topic. So kind of going back to what Nick was saying, our topic is, should college football playoffs be reconstructed? I guess the big thing here is about it being either, what is it, like the four best or the four most deserving, right? That's the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I guess I brought up. I'll give you like I'm a little more informed on it, and Brian also I brought it up. So yeah. I feel like I believe it's a assortment of coaches and directors and whatnot, higher up people that come together and they make a poll and they rank 4 teams in FBS, 4 best teams that they believe are the 4 best teams, and those are the teams that make the playoffs. There's so many teams in the FBS. I feel like I'm staging the question as this: should it be reconstructed? And I absolutely believe it should be. To say that there's only 4 teams worthy of playoffs or national championship contending is absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion. When you got teams like Oklahoma who are 6-0, or top of the top, they have NFL talent all across the roster, and you're telling me they're not good enough to make the playoffs? It just, who gets to say that these teams aren't worth it? How accurate are these polls? It's not. They're hard. Some of them are based in stats. Teams like Alabama, if they lose a game, they'll still make the playoffs. A team like Oklahoma or Georgia, they lose a game, they don't make the playoffs. So where's the fairness in that? There's team recognition. There's name recognition involved in picking teams for the playoffs. I believe, even though this is going to make the playoffs longer and more injury-riddled and more costly, and that's kind of what they're trying to avoid by it, and I understand why. But I think the only way to get a fair system is to make the breed more teams. Maybe make it 10 teams, 15 teams. I don't know how many teams how many teams you're going to make it. But again, I don't know how many teams are going to make it or how long you're going to make it, but it definitely needs to be expanded. There has to be a different system, because I think on top of the problem that you don't know who the best who the best team is, and it's kind of unfair that teams get left out of it. I think it definitely breeds like unsportsmanlike behavior, because for teams like Oklahoma, if they're not destroying teams by 70 each week, they may not make the 4 seed, because I think they're sitting in the 6th or the 5th seed right now. They're sitting in the 5th seed right now, right? They're 6-0. They have 6 wins. Yet they're going to be out of the playoffs at this rate. It's not fair. Like, Oklahoma's got to start beating teams by 70, 80 points when they don't need to in order just to make the playoffs. And it's unsportsmanlike. You win the game, you move on. There's no reason to destroy teams by 70, 80 points. It doesn't make sense. I don't think it's good for college football. I think I think everyone across the board would benefit in the long run if they expanded how many teams made the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that definitely makes sense. Obviously, I'm not the most informed about this thing, but from just looking at it, like, I kind of want to know where this idea that it was like the 4 most deserving came from, and like what the history of all that is, because to me it just doesn't really make sense. Obviously, I think part of it is that college football is so, like, there's so many teams, and obviously the talent comparison is much wider than in other sports, but I feel like they should definitely expand it out to allow more teams to be in it. I don't know, like you said, to what degree they do that, but I think they also have to weigh, like, they don't want to injure the players that are trying to make it to the NFL, which is something you said about, and I think that's definitely important to them, but there is definitely an issue with the whole college football playoffs, and I mean, that's why it's a controversy, so it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's all we have to talk about. It's a very long podcast.
Yeah.
Any last words, Nick?
Yeah, I guess I'm home for the week, so I definitely was able to enjoy my podcast a little bit more and not worry about schoolwork. It's kind of nice. Yankees are tied. Everybody is wondering or watching this. But before the Yankees gave up a run, not a run, a single. My bad. The Yankees are tied 2-2 at the bottom of the fifth. So you look, everybody's watching this after the fact and be like, "Oh, the Yankees got blown out," or "Oh, the Yankees changed the score from there," or whatever it was. And we kind of need to say that, at this point in the podcast, the Yankees were 2-2 with the Astros. Other than that, this podcast is a work in progress. We hope to make it better each and every week. Any questions, comments, concerns, make sure, leave that in the comments, our Instagram, whatever it may be. You can contact me at nick.horvath on Instagram. I've kind of opened up my Twitter a little bit more. I've been using it a little bit more. Nick Horvath. My handle is at @NickHorvath61. You can also contact me at my email at nicholaszhorvath10@yahoo.com. I think our Instagram is doing pretty well so far. I actually had somebody come up yesterday and say the Instagram was pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll tell you who that was after. I don't know if it wants to be named on podcast, but
yeah.
So I thought it was pretty interesting for that to happen. So hopefully I hope you guys are liking the Instagram. Go check it out at TheSportUniverse. What is it?
It's fine.
Yeah, whatever it is. I'll let Brian say it. So yeah, check us out. Videos coming up. Hot stuff. Brian.
Yeah. So I think I like to end these by saying what the future is like. So I think one of our main focuses right now is trying to find more people to help us out, do different things so we can get as much content out as possible. The Instagram is the.sport.universe. I was actually trying to figure out some other handles that I could use, and basically all of them were taken. So we might have to be a little creative with it.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off, but in terms of people we're looking for anybody. But my personal feel is we have some creative people that are either good at graphic designing or video editing. Those people would be super useful for us. That would really bring our what we have here up to the next step, the next level. That would really help us expand. Only look it better for the public, but I don't know, just make our content even that more interesting. So,
yeah. But in turn, we don't have anything to pay people. So
I mean, yeah, very true, very true.
This is all. Definitely agree with Nick, but this is all.
Yeah, if you want to be a part of something and help grow it, and say that you help grow it, it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So, just to get that out there, the Instagram, I said that already. What else was there? We're getting out articles. If you're interested in writing for us, editing videos, contact us, like Nick said, at TheSportUniverse2019@gmail.com. We're at 107 subscribers. Pretty fun. I don't know. Not much more.
Yes, sir.
But other than that, thanks for listening.